Organizing your own event is not an easy task, as anyone in events management will tell you. Having covered the basics of event planning in the previous module, we will now delve into the nitty-gritty details that go into planning an event effectively. Before anything else, the first thing to do when planning an event is defining your broad goals and objectives. This will help you shape your event program in line with what you want to achieve. Is it to improve community relations, to build a larger donor network, or to start a new movement? Having clear goals will also reduce the risk of wasting your precious time and money on things which are of less importance. Next, you need to come up with a rough program outline. What is the main attraction of the event? What other elements can complement this? Are there performances? How long should the whole event last? Is there a specific theme? This outline is a basic starting point for you to build on with your team. Do keep in mind your target market when crafting your event plan. A mother of two from a lower income household would enjoy events differently than a young working professional. When it comes to events, the use of the technical equipment can either make your show a standout or a dud. Based on your rough outline, list down the technical aspects that come into play. Microphones, projectors, pyrotechnics. Do you have the technology on hand, or will they need to be outsourced? These technical elements need to be identified early on, as they will affect a large portion of your planning. The last thing you want is to face technical difficulties on the day of the event. Once you have a clearer idea of the event you're organizing and the elements involved in it, you'll need to expand your project team. You might want to hold open recruitments or select from a pool of contacts you already have. Whichever it is, try to pick team members who are good at working with other people. Solo players tend to hold teams back. You also want people who are as passionate about the event as you are. They will have a deeper investment in it and are likely to put more enthusiasm and effort into their work. When you are happy with the people you have recruited, start breaking them into smaller teams. Designate specific tasks to each team, such as marketing, food and beverage, talent liaison, so on and so forth. When assigning members into teams, play to their strengths. Someone charismatic, for example, would be more valuable in the marketing team as opposed to the F&B team. The next step is to create an organizational chart. It might seem like a no-brainer, but drawing out a chart and sharing it with your team will keep everyone informed of the chain of authority. It also gives them a bigger idea of where they'll fit in and who they should report to. Another thing to note is that the flow of information should always be flowing from the top of the organizational chart to the bottom, and vice versa. Now it's time to find the right venue for your event. During your research, look for places that are easily accessible. Select a venue which is easily reached by road and not difficult to find. You also want a venue which has facilities such as dressing rooms and meeting rooms available. These will come in handy as storage and rest areas. Think about suitability as well. If you are inviting dignitaries or government officials, look at ballrooms and hotel banquet halls. If you have pyrotechnics, perhaps consider an outdoors venue or a hall which leads into an outer garden area. Once you've shortlisted your venue options, schedule a viewing and bring along 2 or 3 team members with you. This preliminary visit to the venue is a great way to scout out the facilities available. And though the venue supervisor will likely be able to share a measured floor plan with you, it's better to bring along a measuring tape. Do not be afraid to ask questions regarding booking procedures, technical equipment, and any other concerns you may have. Be sure to also take as many photos as possible. From the front entrance to the backstage dressing areas. These photos can be very valuable in getting your team familiar with the venue before the event. Another important aspect when booking a venue is the paperwork. Depending on the event that you're running and the location of the venue, you might need to apply for permits or licenses. If you're unsure of what documents you'd need, the venue supervisor should be able to advise you, or you can contact your city council for information. Cover all your bases and get expert legal advice before signing any contracts too. Planning and strategizing is worth nothing if you do not have an on-site team to execute plans. On-site management is one of the most vital aspects to a successful event. Be sure to assign and secure spaces for the registration to take place and for the catering, if any, to be set up. Also, look into securing parking bays for any VIPs who will be in attendance, and, if possible, secure some for your team members, especially the runners or people who travel frequently to and from the venue. A key to a smooth on-site workflow is to have a project supervisor who does nothing but supervise. Delegating extra tasks to your supervisor, such as manning registration counters, is not a good idea. The supervisor should be roaming about the venue and tracking the overall progress of the event, keeping an eye out for anything out of place. Supervisors sometimes have extra tasks thrust upon them due to a few members of the event team taking breaks at the same time. This is especially common when it comes to larger scale events or day-long events. To avoid this, create a rotation schedule for all on-site crew. Depending on the size of your team and the duration of your event, plan breaks for your team in batches of 2 to 5 people at a time, every 30 to 45 minutes. After the event, regardless of how tired you are and your team will be, remember to return the venue back to its original state. Equipment or furniture which has been outsourced should ideally be transported back to the vendor on the same day. This is to avoid extra rental surcharges. The venue should also be swept and stripped of any decorations your team may have installed. It may or may not be stated in your letter of agreement with the venue, but it's common practice to tidy up after an event. Another important aspect is the post-event debrief. A debrief is important to review the success or failure of an event and also to troubleshoot any problems that might have occurred during the course of the project. Traditionally, a debrief session is held with key stakeholders and core committee members. However, it's also advisable to hold a smaller scale debriefing for other members of the team, including volunteers. This smaller session is primarily to touch base with them regarding claims and outstanding payments. All financial matters such as payable invoices and monetary claims should be cleared as soon as possible. Strive to pay off all vendors and suppliers first, then move on to paying individuals. However, you do not want to still be settling payment 2 months after the event. Try your best to keep it to 30 days. If for any reason you need to delay payment, keep them informed. Silence on your part will cause those who haven't been paid agitation, and you do not want them complaining about you or your team. Now that you have a clearer idea of the logistics of event planning, let's go through some quick tips which you should keep in mind. Always communicate your requests and tasks with great detail. For example, avoid using vague terms when setting deadlines. Be specific. 2 p.m. this Friday. Give someone a clear idea of when something is due, as opposed to Friday afternoon. Remember, the more information, the better. Another tip is to document everything. Photos, meeting minutes, contracts. Not only will compiling and documenting be helpful for your team to track progress, but these documents can also be used later on to build a corporate portfolio. The saying, "expect the unexpected," is one which is used often during events because regardless of how smoothly your pre-planning phase goes, there are some things which are unavoidable, such as rain or the electricity cutting off. If something goes wrong, which 9 times out of 10 it will, keep your cool. Take it in stride and find the best, quickest solution. Try to use your foresight during pre-planning to come up with contingency plans for common errors. Events can sometimes bring out the worst in people. In the heat of the moment, voices might be raised and feelings hurt. Whether you're speaking to a subordinate or a superior, always say please and thank you. It may not diffuse a tense situation, but it will prevent tensions from escalating. And people do function best when they know they are respected and that their efforts are appreciated. Common courtesy goes a long way, and events are no exception.